I just got in my first play of Talisman 5th edition, and I wanted to share two thoughts that I immediately noticed that changed the game. And for me right now, part of it is shiny new edition, but I played a lot of 4th edition regularly once or twice a month. Every couple of months, a big 15, 16 player game, which we have never finished, but that's not the point. It's to get as many players into the game as possible. The changes from 4th to 5th. Now, this is just core as of right now. It'll be interesting to see the expansions, whether they build out or they build up. The biggest change that I noticed is the game plays much, much quicker. And this is a good thing. If you've been following my channel, you know that I love Talisman, but the game can be a grind, especially if you don't fully have your Talisman tactics down. They've streamlined it in that the cards, and I'm being careful, I'm not going to give away any spoilers. Absolutely no spoilers. The cards, event cards, encounter cards, they're not as punishing. There's a little bit more roll a d6, +1 strength, +1 craft. You tend to level up your base stats much quicker. There's also trading in trophies where you have to equal or beat your current level. So you tend to level up much, much quicker. This kind of propels the game in terms of the playtime, cutting it down. It's also easier to make it around the board. There's a couple of options for movement. There's a new space that allows you, I won't say teleport, but to appear in other areas of the board. It's easier to get where you need to go. Fate changes this too. Fate is still in the game. You get the reroll, but Fate also allows you to burn a Fate token and move 6 spaces or up to 6 spaces. And with this, you can land on that pool of life. You can land on that encounter. You have a little bit more agency in terms of leveling up. So what I found was this feeling of, and we were playing with 4 players, this feeling of I'm still grinding, I'm still leveling up, I'm still getting gear, I'm still seeing what cards are coming out of the adventure deck, but things are happening much quicker, much, much quicker. And that's good to kind of cut down on the game. The other thing was death. We had 2 character deaths, and this was interesting. In 4th edition Talisman, when you get killed, you drop all your gear, you drop all your stuff. So right away, if it's mid or end game, when you've got a lot of stuff, everybody's trying to grab what they're trying to grab. You then draw a new character randomly, and now you start the game. Maybe it's a character you want to get, maybe it's a character you don't want to get. This had the unfortunate consequence of if you were mid or end game, where you had a lot of gear and the other players have a lot of gear and they're not quite ready to make the run for the Crown of Command, but they're close. If you got knocked out starting from the beginning, there's just a good chance you're never going to catch up. If you're 30, 40, 50 turns into the game and now you're coming in literally fresh, it's an impossibility. So sometimes there was this feeling if you got knocked out of Talisman, I never gave up. But it's kind of like, well, I'll play this out and see what happens, but I'm never going to be able to compete moving forward. Well, now when you die, you keep everything, you go to the village, and next turn you've got to spend some gold if you have it to heal up, or if not, you gain 1 life and you're back in the game. So death is really an inconvenience of moving you away, the farthest away point from the Crown of Command. This means you can be a little bit more aggressive. You know, there were times, depending on where my life was, that I had to play it very conservatively. I wouldn't take a risk. Now, with death not being permanent, I can take a little bit more of a risk, which has this feedback loop of not being knocked out of the game and losing my progress, but also speeding the game up, because maybe I'll take some of those risks and it will play out. Also, what we found was that when you got knocked out, it still made the end game, the race for the Crown of Command, interesting, and you still felt like you were in it. 2 players making the run, you get knocked out, you're not dead, you're back. You got to try and get up there as quickly as you can. Maybe they'll have a hard time in the mines. Maybe they'll roll a d6 on the pit fiends and have to chew through them. That'll slow them down. Pushing and playing through that in terms of how the game mechanics work. So I was very pleased to see a game that plays quicker, levels you up quicker, and keeps you in the game for the entire time. Is it a little bit easier to play? Yes, and I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing. it's not quite as punishing. And of course, you could always house rule a lot of the 4th edition rules and easily bring those back if you wanted to. It's going to be really interesting to see where the game goes, especially since this is now ground zero for 5th edition. We don't have to hunt down some of the X packs and expansions that are out of print. It's literally rolling forward. New artwork, interesting dice. They kept the gold coins. The character cards are a little bit more dynamic. What I'm on the hunt for now is we're fighting the Elder Dragon. I need a good dragon miniature to sit in the middle of the board and have that for the Crown of Command. Maybe a dragon wearing a crown. We've got to kind of 3D print one of those. Maybe we'll get something like that with the Tower. And it'll be interesting to see as the expansions, again, do they build out or do they build up? So the question for me, and I have a complete set of 4th edition that we've played that I love. Does 5th edition replace 4th for me from the perspective of a Talisman enthusiast? I have to say it does. I really, really do. This makes the game a little bit quicker to play. It's not quite as punishing, but for me, the number one thing is it keeps all the players in the game the entire time, and it keeps them all engaged the entire time. It's not 50, 60 turns in, getting ready to make the run for the Crown of Command. You get killed, you get knocked out. Now you're out of the game. You're still in the game the entire time.